Ammonium. He hears screams of the damned, and in front of him is a body that's been torn apart and eviscerated. It looks—
Oh, it's not like we kept people in a room and didn't allow them to sleep. What? What do you expect for them to do?
Has been in the room. Even the survivors have
ripped him up!
Flesh ripped from their arms and
the guy
legs.
threw
The
up.
ends of their fingers shown exposed bone. Their faces are sheared of skin. What is this inferno of madness? Thinks—
What did we do? Is exactly what he said to the next guy when he left. Hey, what did we do?
the researcher. This wasn't exactly how the experiment was supposed to turn out, he thinks.
Oh my
the food wasn't
gosh.
great. We might have made those beds a bit
Who
more
comes up with
comfortable,
these
but tearing
ideas?
each other to shreds over a bit of lost sleep? Come on, guys. That's not very comrade of you.
Haiku's sitting around like, dude, check me out. Couple guys, no sleeping, preferably a month. Lock them in a room. What do you think? Everyone's just like, yes! Put money on it.
That nightmare scenario is straight out of the famous Russian sleep experiment, if you believe it really happened. Let's start from the beginning of the story, and then we'll tell you what our
Why
team
would
of
you ever do
world-class
this?
sleuths dug up on the truth
Why would you
behind
sign
this
up for it?
horrific experiment. So, it's the late 1940s, and
Dude, unless
Soviet
like
era
people were kidnapped and forced to do this, there's no way anyone signed up to do this. Like there was no cash reward, there was no free cruise, a free skydiving trip. You're not meeting Barney.
researchers have
Like,
created
why would
a
you sign up
stimulant
for this?
that they believe can
You
keep a
don't
person
win
awake for a long
at all.
time, which is handy when you're fighting a war. In the Second World War, the Germans had their version of such a stimulant, which was a formidable methamphetamine called Pervitin. The Americans and the British would dose their troops with the amphetamine Benzedrine, which was similar to your garden variety speed. The Soviets are looking to
Yikes.
up
They
the
were
ante and use their own
juiced
version
up
of a
fighting,
drug,
dude.
which won't lead to a total
Not giving a
wipeout after a
crap.
3-day-long binge. They've made something special, but they need to test
It's
it
a
on humans
hamster.
first. It's not hard to find test subjects since prisoners of war were aplenty in the 1940s.
Oh, that sucks.
And where
Imagine
prisoners
being
were
a
concerned,
POW.
bypassing ethical considerations
hey.
wasn't such a big deal. They set up a
Hey, we got an experiment for you, buddy.
test area where 5 subjects will stay. It's a sealed environment into which the researchers can release the stimulant in gas form and check if the levels of oxygen are okay. The subjects
They're
have
like,
been given dried
yeah,
food, each a
yeah.
bed with no bedding, running water, and a toilet. The researchers listen to the subjects through a microphone, and there are cameras through which they can monitor the subjects. The only portholes to the outside are 5-inch thick glass windows, which are barely good enough to see a shadow from. The scene is set, and the 5 men seem in good spirits for the first 3 days.
Dude, I mean, did they at least have,
the
like,
gas is
cards,
doing its job,
a
and the
TV,
researchers are pleased
like-
about that. One
Do they have
researcher tells
anything to
another,
keep them
"Nazi
occupied?"
meth, what a joke. Just wait until the world sees what we've cooked up. Comrade Stalin will be most pleased. The subjects have agreed to try and stay awake for 30 days, and have
Oh
been
my
falsely
gosh.
informed that if they can make the 30 days, they'll get their freedom. Such a deal seems fair to
What a deal! Stay awake for 30 days.
them.
My
Things
gosh.
turn slightly dark around the
This is
4-day
torture.
mark, when the subjects start discussing war and the horrors they've seen. They speak of traumas, continual nightmares, other ghastly things they witnessed.
Oh
Day
my
5,
gosh.
and things get
They
worse.
should just start
the men
talking
start
about,
showing
like,
signs of psychosis,
football.
talking to themselves, and things that are
football?
not there. They grow paranoid of each other and start whispering into those microphones, telling stories about the other subjects. The researchers, of course, know all about sleep deprivation. After 5 days, the
Dude, they
mind
should have
can
known
turn
that
on a
this
person.
was not gonna go
Hallucinations
well.
can seem real and horrifying, but they wondered, was it the loss of sleep or the gas itself? Suspicions about the gas effects were more solid at day 9, when one guy just started screaming, howling like a banshee and running up and down the
Dude,
room. He
yeah, I'd
screamed
be
so much he seemed to
freaking
tear
out.
his vocal cords, because after a few hours he squeaked like a children's toy. A few more days passed,
How
and
do
there
you
was
know
an eerie
this?
silence.
Who
The men
said?
could not be seen from the cameras. They were alive
Who
for sure,
said
since the
that he
oxygen
was
levels
squeaking
indicated
like a
5
dog?
breathing men, but where were they? The researchers hadn't wanted to interrupt the
This sink does not have a trap, by the way. That means there would be sewer gas coming from here out the sink. If it's got a sink, it'll catch water right here to prevent the gas.
study, but
And
they
then,
felt that they
boom.
had no choice.
Just saying.
And so said into an intercom,
Just
"We're opening
saying.
the chamber to test the microphones. Step away from the door and
We're
lie flat
opening
on the
the
floor, or
chamber."
you will be shot. Compliance will earn one of you immediate freedom." They
What?
heard one voice respond. It said, "We no longer want to be freed." What was this? Had they been getting ripped on that gas and were now addicted? The
We want
researchers
to
said
stay
there's nothing we
awake.
can do but open the door. They opened the vents and let fresh air displace the residual stimulant. What the researchers heard next was the men screaming again, pleading for more of that damn fine gas. WTF, thought one of the Russians. Those guys are seriously hooked. They opened the doors on day 15, and to their surprise saw one man was dead. You know what the scene looked like because we laid that out for you in the intro, but we didn't tell you
Yeah,
what
no
happened shortly
shit.
after
You
the
need
gruesome
sleep.
discovery of the half-eaten man and the wounded survivors. On closer inspection, the researchers saw that the wounds on the men were very bad. They looked as if they might have been self-inflicted too.
I mean, dude, you might as well do this to yourself if they're gonna keep you locked away forever and just use you as a test subject. Like,
They
nah.
had torn the skin
We
and
ain't
muscles
doing that,
from their
Chief.
own chests,
Oh!
which revealed the horrific sight of the men's lungs. Each
Oh
man
my
in that scene had
gosh.
performed this macabre surgery on himself. Blood vessels that were still working had been removed.
Ah!
Other internal organs were seen laid out on the floor like a piece of art, and the men
Oh,
were going to eat those
shit.
muscles. They were dining on their own bodies and
Oh
doing
my
it with
gosh.
enthusiasm. The researchers called for backup, not daring to go near those poor
Yeah, let's
wretches.
call for
They
backup for what we did.
closed
Yeah,
the
let's
door
do
to
that.
howls of the men pleading for the gas to come back. When soldiers arrived to
Oh
help
my
remove the
gosh,
subject,
dude, just
the
put me
extrication
down.
process wasn't exactly fun. One of the subjects ripped a man's throat right out, while another soldier had his balls removed. 5
What the
soldiers lost their
fuck?
lives in total, but some of the victims took their own lives after the event. Once the subjects were out, the doctors injected enough morphine into them to sedate a Canadian moose. But the men
How do
still
you know
fought
it was a
like wild
Canadian moose?
beasts. One subject bled out and his
He
heart
just
stopped
came up
beating,
with that.
but he still carried on screaming,
enough
"Give
to
me gas!
drop a
I need
Canadian
gas!"
moose.
A doctor had some
You
bones
sure it
broken
wasn't
during that grim
Siberian?
spectacle. The 3 others were eventually sedated and strapped and moved to a secure facility. The researchers talked
That
to
guy's
each other,
losing
saying
it.
things like, "That wasn't meant to happen, was it?"
Nah,
they hated to
twin.
admit it, but maybe the Nazis, the
We
Brits, and
hate
the
to
Americans
admit
had
it, but yeah,
done the right
twin.
thing and just
That was
plying
not
their
supposed
troops
to go
with
how it was
top-notch
supposed
crank.
to.
The surgeons got to work on putting the missing organs and bits of viscera back into one man, but this guy almost broke through his restraints. When the docs finally got the anesthetic into him, the man's
I
heart
mean,
stopped.
it doesn't make any sense because how does this gas, I guess, make you, I guess, well, I guess when adrenaline comes into play, but it seems like even though they're being kept awake, like they're getting fed like dry food, like they're not getting like all the nutrients they need. So how could they have the strength to
and he
be
died
like
right on the spot.
this crazy?
The autopsy showed he had
You would
broken
think they'd be
9
frail,
bones, and his muscles were torn
weak.
all over his body. When they
They're
tried
strong
to fix
enough
it,
to
the next
break
man
the
they decided
restraints.
2
They're like
deaths
super
were enough
soldiers.
and didn't use an anesthetic. They patched him up nice, sewing his ruptured organs and laying skin
Yeah, we
grafts on
patched him
The head
up.
surgeon said this
Get
man
him
should
back in
not
the
be
chamber.
alive
We'll
after
save him
what
for
he's
the
gone
next
through.
project.
But he admired his own work. A nurse commented that during the surgery, the beast had been smiling at her. She did wonder how male carnal
Did she
instincts
comment that, or did you just add that?
can remain functioning during the worst times. Maybe with death comes the need to create something new, she philosophized, but quickly shook herself out of her reverie. The man suddenly started making a wheezing sound as if he wanted to say something. The nurse, quick to catch on, handed him a
probably
pen
did.
and a pad below it. The man wrote,
Get me outta
"Keep
here."
cutting." Wow, she thought, what a maniac. She was glad she'd not
Yeah, this guy's
reciprocated
done
his
for.
flirty smile. As for the other maniac,
Dude,
he
get him
laughed
outta
like
here.
a hyena during his
He's
bodily
freaking me
reconstruction.
out.
He said he wanted that gas, the good stuff. And when asked
want
why,
that
he said he just
gas.
needed it to
I
stay
want that
away.
gas,
The
the
surgeon
good stuff.
mused if these guys weren't so hell-bent on eating themselves, they'd make excellent night shift custodians. Cleaners,
Oh my
perhaps, or maybe
gosh.
security. But he knew
Now
all
they
too
wanna
well
use
that
them
they
as
couldn't be trusted to
custodians.
wash their hands. Then, a former KGB agent had an excellent idea, something that had amazingly
We'll make
escaped
him stay
everyone else's
asleep.
thoughts. Why
The
not
Russian
put these poor
sleep
suckers
experiment
back on
part
that
2.
gas? He said it seems the problems all start when they all go into withdrawal. Hi, they're okay, if not a bit hyper and paranoid. We can work with that. Once back on the gas, they were fine and
they need to
dandy,
let these
but
guys
then
just
something strange happened.
stop.
The EEG monitor showed crazy brain activity, but then it just died down. One man flatlined. Finally, he just died. His last boost of that junk had done him in, or at least it seemed so.
Whoa.
The last guy ended up back in the study room with the other guy seemingly dead on the bed. But 3
This
researchers
is
were in there too.
absolute
Suddenly, one of the
torture.
researchers shot the commander and then shot the subject. He then shouted out loud, "I won't be locked in here with these things, not with you. What are you? I must know." The subject that was shot, but evidently was not dead, replied, "Have you forgotten so easily? We are you. We are the madness that lurks within you all. Beg
Stop it.
to be free at
What
every
is this, a
moment
Tim
in your
Burton
deepest
movie
animal
now?
mind.
We
We
are
are what you
you.
hide from in your bed.
He didn't say that.
We are what you sedate into silence and paralysis.
He
when
didn't
you go
say
to
that
an
also.
eternal haven where we
I don't
cannot
believe
tread.
it.
That was almost the end. But for good measure, the researcher put a
Then a
bullet
leprechaun jumped through the wall.
into the man's chest, which might have breached the Hippocratic Oath somewhat, but hey, harsh times call for harsh measures. The end. So, a lot of people seem to think this all actually happened. Now, without much investigation, one could easily tell by reading this catastrophic
It seems like it could have been plausible. It seems like it could have been a thing. But the way that this was all explained,
flash
I
fiction that
don't
it's written
know.
by someone whose grammatical skills
Someone
need
could have
improving. Not only
exaggerated
that,
the
though, the story
shit
simply
out of the
doesn't make
story.
sense at times. Quite a
He's
few
just in the
times
sh- in the
someone
shower,
dies
like,
and then just comes
you know,
back to
funny
life.
acts.
And we don't think it's
He
on
rips his
purpose
own
by the
guts out.
storyteller. He just
And then
forgets
he's,
what
like,
he said
explaining
or
something. He's
heard.
like,
On
and
another
then,
part, the writer
you know what
says
he'll
that
do?
the oxygen levels
He'll
indicated
break
the
out of
men
the
were
chains.
alive, and
Well,
the
well,
researchers knew
yeah,
that,
he's like a
and then
super
in the
soldier.
next part he said the
And
researchers
then at
were
the end,
not
we'll be like,
sure if they'd all
"Who are
died.
you?"
But
Right?
there's
And he's
more
washing
than
his
bad
face.
writing that gives this
Who
away.
are you? Right?
Where do we start? Well,
These are
we
like
might-
ideas crafted through like table talk over lunch. They're like eating glizzies. Dude, and at the end, you know what I could say? We are you. And they'll totally freak them out.
to
Right?
tell you that you cannot
I don't
rip
think
out
it
vital
happened.
organs and lay them on the floor like a bunch of textbooks. That's pure fiction. Those men would have died from blood loss or shock.
Exactly.
Remember that they were discovered like this and left for some time before the soldiers came. Okay, you say, but that was the gas working. This was a
was it?
secret
What-
experiment that
what
went
was
wrong.
the gas,
High on that wicked
then?
drug, maybe men could
What was the
routinely come back
gas?
from the dead and rip out their own organs and even do a bit
ripped
of
out a
flirting
guy's
when the
throat?
mood took them. How do we know that it isn't true? Well, there is the matter of
Because
recorded
this guy said so.
history and plausible
The
science.
Roblox
No
character.
gas has ever been discovered that can keep a person awake for 15 days. Never mind turn that person into
only
a
person that
self-loathing
can stay up
zombie.
that long is a
There
meth
is no
addict.
history of the experiment
Maybe they gave
anywhere
him
but on a
meth.
website that's known for its scary, fictional, I'll say it again,
Maybe he
fictional
gave him
tales.
meth.
It would be astounding if one author alone, writing badly
Astounding?
from his or her bedroom,
be
had
magnificent.
access to more secret information than the CIA and the British Secret Services. As we said in the story, and we embellished this part
can
ourselves,
only imagine
many
the other type
soldiers
of
on all sides of the war
experiments
broke
that
so
happened
bad that they could stay awake longer.
people
The officers were handing out that
willingly
stuff like
signed
candy.
up for.
But not even the most dedicated ice fiend could stay awake for 15.
What did he say? He called him an ice fiend?
Not even the most dedicated ice fiend could stay awake for 15 days. And those
Ice
badly
fiend?
buzzed soldiers would have likely only
He's
done
off that
24 to possibly
shit.
36
The guy's
hours
moving
a
his
week.
legs.
The Pentagon has even done studies on this, and even if men are forced to stay awake for more than 48 hours, they will become pretty slow and pretty much useless as
That's what I'm
soldiers.
saying. Like,
They'll
how are
make
they like? How are they
tons
super
of mistakes,
strong?
which is not ideal
After just
in
being
war
kept
when
awake
you have
and-
to be constantly alert.
Bro, you'd be
sure, the
weak.
speed helped the Germans with their blitzkrieg attacks, but the drugs had to be taken with some precautions. With this in mind, the Russians would not have
Blitzkrieg.
even tried this experiment.
Could you imagine
There is
fighting, like,
something called
coked up
Morphin
Russians?
syndrome
Like, that
can
actually
cause
sounds
severe
scary.
delirium and very
Shout
bad
out to all the
insomnia,
soldiers that
and
had to
sufferers can go
do
into a
that for us,
dreamlike
'cause
state.
holy-
We say dreamlike because
Coked up
even if they don't
Russians?
sleep,
Like,
they
no,
will
thank
have
you.
micro sleeps. Plus, no one with this disease has ever started eating themselves. Sure, perhaps a noxious agent
Because it's not a thing. No one ever with this disease has ever started eating themselves. It's never been a thing. It's never been a disease.
sprayed into a room
This
full of
gas
guys
doesn't
can
exist.
kill
It's just
someone,
Shrek fart.
But it's very unlikely
This
to
is a
turn
pile
them
of
into
Shrek
gas-addicted
farts.
zombies. There's nothing in scientific literature that supports anything in this experiment. There's another thing that can cause massive sleep loss, and that's called fatal familial insomnia. But that's passed
Yeah,
down
insomnia,
through genes and
like-
isn't caused by environmental agents.
Insomnia is
And again,
different.
it doesn't and it will never make someone just want to rip out their own organs and eat them. There's
Right,
just
guys?
nothing that exists in this world that aligns with the story, and if it did, we would expect it to have appeared in medical journals before it became an internet meme. Then again, many of you have been asking in the comments how we managed to put out so many episodes per day. Maybe
Listen, I ain't here for how many episodes you can put out. I'm here for the Russian sleep experiment facts. And I'm calling crap on this one. You know why? Because I can stay awake until like 2, 3 a.m. and I'm cooked. And that's what no gas. Get what I'm saying?